I am sure that everyone is aware that last night was the New Hampshire primary. Earlier in the day, the president spoke from Concord, the capital. There was some confusion, though. Some people thought that maybe he was confusing Concord, New Hampshire with Concord, Massachusetts. Of course, the Battle of Lexington and Concord being very critical, many people are unaware of how critical Concord, New Hampshire was. Concord, New Hampshire was the site of the Fort Mandan airfield, where the British ran sortie after sortie, bombing away at the Patriots. And until we were able to finally infiltrate that airfield using mountain men and Indians, the British pretty much had free run. But once the Revolutionary War soldiers took it over, they were able to turn the tide of war. As you can see here, this is a flight from the 15th Air Revolutionary Musket Wing taking off to intercept bombers from across the sea. King George was sending huge zeppelins full of explosives that were bombing away. And if those Revolutionary War soldiers hadn't taken those airfields, like the president referenced last 4th of July, who knows? We could all be speaking English right now. I mean, can you imagine? So anyway, a couple weeks back, I was talking about this issue with this grave in Florida, and I was using it as an example of how different things were, even around the turn of last century. This is, of course, a Confederate States Army soldier, born 1844, died 1923, 79 years old, if I've done my math right here, and never saw, technically, yes, there was soap, but did this guy have it? Probably not. Same thing with a toothbrush or toothpaste. Definitely we could say for sure, not for the first 56 years of his life would have that been the case. Now imagine trying to maintain a hygienic lifestyle like we know it, without things like easy to access, cheap toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, hot water. Imagine what life would be like. How would you conduct your life in a way that wouldn't completely gross you out or get you sick? Now, some are asking, why are we talking about this again? Well, believe it or not, I talked about this weeks ago, and this just came out today. This is out of Hong Kong. How can the coronavirus spread through bathroom pipes? Experts are investigating in Hong Kong. They are now alleging that some of the victims got sick from poor plumbing. I kid you not. And they go through here and they show this and they use an image of what the problem was. Here's your commode, here's the water trap, here's the main drain pipe. Apparently there was some issue with these vent pipes. And these vent pipes keep the air pressure balanced so that this water trap stays full of water. Well, with this not being connected correctly, these, once they would flush, it wouldn't fill back up. There was too much pressure in here, and the water would run out, leaving this huge open pipe. And people on the upper and lower floors were getting infected by people in apartments above them and below them. So this is pretty critical. There really is all sorts of evidence that shows that while, yes, the Romans had plumbing, this was the extent of it. See, they had a system where water would just flow through the city, come in one side and go a whole bunch of places and go out the other. And wherever it ended up, they didn't care, because it was just away from there. Whatever happened downstream wasn't really their problem. So while, yes, it created a more hygienic situation, imagine no toilet paper. It really would be a tough thing to adapt to. I brought up the Starz series Outlander, where this woman from around World War II era. Great Britain gets tossed back a couple hundred years in time. I don't know how she would have not, given what she was used to and what her body had adapted to, how she could have possibly dealt with all the things that a woman has to deal with without basic hygiene like we know it today, without getting horribly ill. See, this is what it looked like in Roman times. There's just this huge, sewage river, and as long as it kept flowing, everything would eventually work itself out, and, after a rain, I'm sure everything was much better. But this was the case in North America. Like I said, all the way up until the 1920s, 1930s, and without the advent of modern plumbing, I think we can probably say that we would have had a lot more things like coronavirus cropping up a lot more often. And for those of you still stuck on this bioweapon thing, worst bioweapon ever. Has about a 3% mortality rate, and according to our current beloved leader, it's going to be completely have run its course by April. Warmer weather is going to fix it, and it's actually, they're reporting fewer cases now than ever. And as far as the cases reported, I do agree they are underreporting the cases. And I just wanted to show this image in case people didn't realize actually how a commode really worked. There's a water trap down here, and it's basically a vapor barrier that keeps basically air from places you don't want it to be from mixing with air in the bathroom. So, just saying, if we see the numbers continue to fall, and if our current leader, if what he says is true, and it all goes away by April, how can you say it was a bioweapon? It would be ridiculous. It takes weeks for people to get infected. Only 3% of the people being infected are dying from it. That's a bit of a reach, don't you think? I know as people are like, oh, this video on YouTube channel showed me this, and then Bill Gates that, and it's like, wow. Just when I think people are smartening up a little bit and starting to realize how they're getting played, I see stuff like this, and people have been getting sick from stuff like this for a long time. This guy, I don't want to make it out like this guy was normal. During this era, during this time, many people died in their 20s, 30s, 40s. If you made it to 50 years old, you were doing good. This guy made it to almost 80. And, there's been a lot of speculation that, the fountain of youth supposedly is down here. And people mistake the fountain of youth for the fountain of immortality. I think that's the problem. It's a lack of communication. That sulfury water, that spring water that comes up out of the ground, has medicinal properties to it. It really does, and I can personally attest to it. There are certain things that go on and have gone on in my life I can't explain. I had some old injuries from my time in the Army that have almost all but gone away. Now, do I think I'm going to live forever? No. But a lot of people over hundreds of years have made this allegation. And you kind of have to wonder. Because this particular graveyard, I wish I would have taken a few more pictures, has a lot of graves like this. Of course, they had a section for infants, and there's even up to some Korean War vets are buried in this particular cemetery. But it's just weird that 2 weeks ago I was talking about plumbing and bad plumbing and how that can lead to outbreaks of all sorts of stuff. And all of a sudden now in Hong Kong, we have this exact thing being alleged as a problem. Faulty plumbing, faulty hygiene. So, anyway, I'm just glad we're not all having to speak English. I'm glad those Revolutionary War soldiers took the airfields. Who knows what would have happened Such brave souls. Like, share, subscribe.